بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر الخالق البارئ المصور الغفار القهار الوهاب الرزاق الفتاح العليم القابض الباسط الخافض الرافع المعز المذل السميع البصير.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين.
The Christians believe we live on the earth as a punishment. Muslims don't believe that. You know, some Muslims think Adam alayhi salam ate from the tree and so Allah punished him and so He sent him to the earth. So coming to the earth, for some people, it's a punishment. I am telling you, Allah put us on the earth before any tree or any fruit or anything. He already said you are supposed to be on the earth. That was part of the plan. That was part of the plan. Oh man, this is going to get complicated. Listen to my example carefully. Everything will start making sense, inshallah. There is a person who works in a company. He works in a company and he is a secretary. Very low job. First, at the front desk, almost security guard kind of guy, okay? He has to get chai for the boss. He has to, drive his car, and that's what he does. But he works really hard and he gets promoted. And he goes to school and he gets promoted again. And then he gets promoted again. And then he gets promoted again. He serves in this company for 30, 40 years. And now he is the vice president of the company. What was his first job? Security guard for the company. And now what is he? What did I say, president or vice president? Vice president. That's a lot of promotion. He gave his whole life to this company. Now there's only one person who has a higher job than him. Who's that? The president. So the president walks into his office one day with a 15-year-old boy. And he says to him, hey, listen, this 15-year-old boy, he's our new vice president. Go get him some chai. Now the vice president served in this company for 40 years. He got promoted and promoted and promoted and promoted. And all of a sudden, this 15-year-old is going to be the vice president? Excuse me? No. You can't do that to me. Who is he? What degree does he have? What qualifications does he have? What has he ever done? He doesn't know anything. Look at what I have done. Look at what he has done. Look at my experience, look at his experience. Look at my qualifications, look at his qualifications. Has he even graduated from school? This boy? Does he even know how to spell his own name? You're going to make him vice president? I do not accept. Oh, you feel bad for the vice president or no? I would feel bad. If I was in the office watching this, I would say, man, this is not fair. Poor vice president. He worked so hard. And all of a sudden he doesn't, instead of getting a promotion, he gets this other guy and he says, this is the, and go get him some chai. What is this? But I'm not talking to you about a vice president, am I? Who am I talking about? Iblis. Did he serve Allah before? Did he get promoted? He got promoted even above the angels. And all of a sudden this thing is made from dirt. And then Allah put ruh in it and says, this gets the promotion. And Iblis says what? No. You can't give him that's not fair. What I'm trying to tell you is that the complaint of Iblis is logical. We will solve that problem later. But the first thing you need to know is that the complaint of Iblis is understandable. That's the first problem. Here's the second problem. Now imagine that you work in a company and you live where? In Kuwait. And your company decided that they are going to transfer you. They're going to transfer you from Kuwait, they're going to transfer you to Sri Lanka. Okay? But they don't tell you. They email the whole department, but they don't email you. Everybody knows that you are going where? Where are you going to go? I forgot. Tell me. Oh, you're going to Sri Lanka. Very good. Congratulations. Everybody knows. The only one who does not know is who? You. Okay. One day you come 5 minutes late. You come to the office how late? 5 minutes late. And your boss says, can I talk to you for a second? Come here. You have come 5 minutes late. This is unacceptable. I am transferring you to Sri Lanka. But wait a second. The plan was always to send me to Sri Lanka. And then somebody comes and tells me, hey, listen, everybody got the email. You're going to Sri Lanka. And you say, what? Really? Yeah, you're going to Sri Lanka. And you say, I don't want to go to Sri Lanka. I want to stay here. He says, yeah, if you want to stay here, meet me in my office. It'll take 5 minutes. You'll only be 5 minutes late to work. And so you're how late to work? 5 minutes. And when you're 5 minutes late, your boss calls you and says, why are you late? I will punish you and send you where? Sri Lanka. Sorry, Sri Lankans. I don't mean Sri Lanka as a punishment. I love Sri Lanka. But if you're being sent there, you say, no, wait a second. You already decided. You are not sending me because I made a mistake. You are sending me because that was your plan. It's not my fault. You were always going to do that. Yes or no? And then you'll show him the email. Look, the email says, you're sending me. You told everybody else. The whole department knows I'm going to be sent. But I'm not talking about you, and I'm not talking about Sri Lanka. What am I talking about? Adam alayhi salam. What did Allah tell the angels? I am going to send him where? On the earth. But Adam alayhi salam did not begin his life on the earth. He began his life in Jannah. And then he's living in Jannah. He's told you can have anything you want. The only thing you cannot have is what? One tree, one fruit from this tree. You don't have that. Everywhere else you're free to go. Now Iblis comes to him. From Surah Al-A'raf we learn Iblis comes to him and gives him two options. Listen to these two options. أَن تَكُونَ مَلَكَيْنِ أَوْ تَكُونَ مِنَ الْخَالِدِينَ. Listen, everybody got the email. You're supposed to go where? Earth. But where do you live right now? Jannah. So you know what? The only people who get to stay here, who get the proper visa here, there's only two kinds of people who can stay in Jannah. Either you have to be an angel, or you have to be permanent residents. Khalidin. Those are the only two people who have visa that they can stay permanently in Jannah. And you know what? The only way to get visa is to eat from the tree. That's why he doesn't want you to eat from the tree. Because if you eat from the tree, what's going to happen? Oh, then you will get permanent residence. You see, I'm telling you, the plan is to send you to the earth. Now, Adam alayhi salam and our mother, they eat from the tree or no? They eat from the tree. And when they eat from the tree, what does Allah say? Ihbitu. Get down from here. Go where? To the earth. Now, I told you a little bit about Iblis and I told you a little bit about who? Adam. Let's compare the two of them. Think about this clearly, because we have to reach some conclusions. Adam alayhi salam was given a promotion, yes or no? Yes, he was given a promotion. Even the angels had to do what? Sajda. He's given a promotion. Was Iblis ever given a promotion? Yes, he was given a promotion even above the ranks of the angels. So they both had a promotion. Adam alayhi salam was honored by Allah. Iblis was also honored by Allah. Adam alayhi salam disobeyed Allah. Yes or no? Yes. Iblis disobeyed Allah. Yes or no? Yes. Before I go to Adam, Iblis, la'anahullah, Iblis has a logical complaint. Yes or no? Remember the promotion and the vice president? Does Iblis have a logical complaint? Yes. Adam can also have a logical complaint. What's Adam's logical complaint, possibly? Well, you were always going to send me to the earth. This is a trap. I eat from the tree or don't eat from the tree, you were always going to send me. You already knew I was going to eat from the tree. Allah already knows what I'm going to do. It's not my fault. So Iblis can have a logical complaint and Adam can also have a logical complaint. The difference is Iblis makes the complaint. But Adam alayhi salam does not complain. He says, Rabbana walamna anfusana. He says, no, it was my fault. Even if it doesn't make sense to me, my logic is limited because I am a human being. Allah knows way more than I do. Allah has way more wisdom than I do. I know that I got greedy. I know my fault. You know what happens? When people want to blame Allah, they don't want to take responsibility. And Adam alayhi salam took personal responsibility. When people want to blame Allah, they will be like Iblis. And when people take personal responsibility, they will be like who? Adam alayhi salam. The entire problem of destiny is one problem, the problem of responsibility. That's all it is.
Hi, my name is Mike Bachman, and I'm a United Methodist pastor, and I'm excited that we're able to share in a little question and answer time with Imam Omar Suleiman. He's here to answer questions from some folks who have been part of our audience as we've been having an extended conversation together. So I'll introduce them each, and I'm looking forward to hearing their questions and the response that Imam Omar has. So I'm really excited to have with us Rabbi Ilana Zeleny here, and she has a question for Imam Omar. So There you go. If you can use that, it'd be great.
Hi.
How you doing, Rabbi?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for hosting. I had a question about training. I know that as a rabbi, there are limited options around the globe where I can learn our holy texts, and where I choose to study can have a vast influence on how I interpret text.
Sure.
So what does that training look like for an imam?
So it's probably not as defined for an imam as it is in other faith traditions. There is the overseas route, so going and learning the religion in different parts of the world, so some of the premier institutions. So I personally studied in the United Arab Emirates. I spent some time in Jordan, and I'm doing my PhD in Malaysia right now, so I've been all over the place, right? But there are institutions now that have come up in the United States. So at Bain Institute, for example, we teach the Arabic language. Once you learn the Arabic language, you're really able to study all types of things. It opens your world into Islamic texts and things of that sort. So there are programs that are 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, even some that are 10 years, right, that take a really long time. A lot of times the imam will be just chosen from the congregation, the person that can read the Qur'an most fluently and that has the greatest knowledge of Islam will be chosen to lead the congregation. But now there's a new generation, and this is part of the good news of American-born imams. There are lots of them now. So we're seeing a lot of those in mosques now, a lot of imams that have been born here, that know the culture, that have trained either in institutions here or trained overseas but came back and sort of got acclimated once again and can address very relevant topics and issues. So the mosques are becoming more American for sure now as a result of that. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And do you have a professional organization where many imams can meet and share ideas and collaborate on projects together?
There are different organizations, different scholars, councils, and things of that sort, but there isn't one premier council where all imams get together. But there are a few of them that are attempts to try to get imams all on the same page and things of that sort. I think that our community is in its maturation process. We're growing and we're trying to figure things out. And I think that Islamophobia is sort of helping us get things going better, quicker at an institutional level as well. So there is more collaboration. That's one of the blessings. You were asking about how do I get, what messaging do we give people? So, I tell them that what's required is that we use this as an opportunity to build our institutions, to come together, to be better prepared in the future as well. So, that's, it's not as easy as being a pastor or a rabbi, but we are trying to figure things out, and we are growing in that sense as well.
Well, that's great.
Thank you.
Cool. I feel like this was the setup for a joke. We have an imam, a rabbi, and a pastor all sitting right here. Where are we walking into? Yeah.
Walk into a studio.
I guess so. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Robert.
Huma, welcome to Let the Qur'an Speak.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here to talk about a very, important topic, anxiety, because increasingly we're finding that people are saying that they have anxiety. So, I guess the question is, well, what is anxiety? People have so many myths and misconceptions about it. The first misconception is that anxiety is not a real illness. So can you address that? Is it a real illness, or are people just imagining it?
Well, I will say that anxiety is a completely normal emotion that we all feel and experience. And it has kind of an impact on the way we think, the way we feel, even just the physical sensations, or like a racing heart, sweaty palms. But when it gets to extremes is when it can become an illness. Mm-hmm. And it is completely real, particularly as the numbers show that it is. It's a problem in the world. Mm-hmm.
So let's say, how would you differentiate between a regular anxiety that somebody has and then, generalized anxiety disorder, which is much more serious? At what point would it require medical attention?
Mm-hmm. So I think most of us can think of examples in our life where we have felt anxiety.
Yeah.
So
you have to write a test, or
exactly.
you're running
so let's
to catch
say
a train
right before
or
final
something.
exam, you're worried about failing. Mm-hmm. You're maybe having some racing heart, some sweaty palms. That to me is completely normal and expected anxiety. However, when it crosses the line into now it means I can't actually focus at all during the exam, I now want to avoid writing all exams, I'm limiting going on campus because I'm worried about my marks and how people are perceiving me, that becomes a problem. Mm-hmm. So that line generally is when it starts impacting your functioning. Mm-hmm. Generalized anxiety disorder is a more extreme form of worry. So people with that tend to worry about everything. And it's more than just that. It's actually hard for them to control when they start worrying, and they have physical symptoms. So some physical symptoms can be muscle tension, irritability, restlessness, problems with sleep, problems with concentration. Mm-hmm. And the big important thing when it comes to any type of illness is that it has to impact your functioning. Mm-hmm. So those that have those symptoms, it gets to the point where it interferes with their ability to live the life that they want to live. And that's when you need to get help.
Mm-hmm. How common is generalized anxiety disorder?
It's one of the most common mental illnesses. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I think we can all kind of relate to and connect to, is that we often find ourselves worrying a lot, right? But the difference is that those with generalized anxiety disorder, they often have a difficulty breaking those worries. So if you think of it as a car, we all accelerate. But when it comes to braking, people with generalized anxiety disorder can't really stop that worry, and then it leads to problems in their functioning.
So some people say, you know, you're anxious, just get over it. You know, just get over it, just do what you have to do, and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
How would you respond to that for someone with generalized anxiety disorder? I'm assuming they can't do that.
No. Telling someone with anxiety, just get over it, it really is minimizing what they're struggling with. I can tell you that I've seen hundreds, probably thousands of individuals with anxiety, and it wreaks havoc in their life. They can't sit still and just be at peace. So to tell them just kind of get over it, they would love to get over it, right? So it's something they can't just pick up and do and make a decision on that.
Or someone says, you know, if you had the willpower, you could do it, you know?
Where to me, I think it is, yeah, that'd be nice. But it is something that there is a definite cycle when it comes to anxiety, where people with anxiety often have negative thoughts about the situation or whatever is triggering their anxiety. So I can't do this, this makes me nervous. Then that leads to a lot of physical sensations, so heart rate increase, maybe problems breathing, and that often leads to changes in behavior. So they might then avoid the activity that's leading to them feeling anxious, which then brings about some temporary relief. So they feel a little bit better. But what ends up happening is that cycle loops. It continues to occur over and over again, often getting people to have live more and more in a bubble. And it's hard to break out of that cycle. People with anxiety usually have been suffering with this for years. And to say, you know what, you should just have the willpower to do it, I don't think that's fair.
Do you think, let's say, a person with anxiety should avoid stressful or difficult situations, you know, in which they feel anxious?
I would say that's almost impossible.
Okay.
I think that people with anxiety try to do that, but I don't know how effective it is. What ends up happening is that individuals that avoid situations that lead to stress find themselves increasingly living in that bubble. But what also ends up happening is it makes the problem worse. It's reinforcing that thinking pattern that, well, if I just don't do it, it'll be okay. Whereas they're not learning that, you know what, it usually is okay even if you do it. So it leads to more and more restricted functioning. And when it comes to treatment, one of the ways that you do treat people with anxiety is having them start going into situations that lead them to feel stress gradually. Small steps at a time, so they can learn that, you know what, it can be okay, they can handle it, and then they can start doing more and more things and get back to living their life.
So would this be considered a part of cognitive behavioral therapy, or is that something else?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So cognitive,
tell me more about that.
Yeah, so cognitive behavioral therapy is actually found to be one of the most effective forms of treatment, therapies when it comes to anxiety disorders as a whole. What it is looking at the way people think. So often people with anxiety have negative beliefs about things, and that impacts the way they behave, leading to problematic behaviors. So what CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, tries to do is provide them with strategies and techniques to challenge those thoughts, to make them more balanced, and to have more balanced behaviors as a result as well.
So can you give me an example of how that would play out for an individual?
Sure. So for example, if someone has a lot of anxiety about or worries about crowds, let's say, so they try to limit it to maybe only having one or two people around them at a time. So you would start at a step where it would lead to some anxiety, but they'd be able to handle it. So it might be, you know, are you okay going to a friend's house with maybe 5 or 6 people there, that all of who you know? That would probably lead them to have some anxiety, but maybe enough that they could handle it. So then they would go do that and stay in that situation until they start feeling the anxiety is coming down. And it's not just a one-off. You would do that a few times to make sure that you really are getting comfortable. And then once you feel like, you know what, I can handle that, I can go out with my friends, 5 or 6 of them, you then increase to another, a bit more difficult of a step. So you can see gradually in a step-by-step fashion, you get to more progressively difficult things for that person. And it's very specific to what they are worrying about.
What about thoughts? How would you work on overturning an individual's anxious thoughts.
See, that often I feel like the behavioral part is often a little bit easier.
Really?
So the
Okay.
exposure, because it really is often saying to people, do this repeatedly and it'll work. You almost don't need to explain to them why. Where when it comes to thinking, those are patterns that have been ingrained for many of us.
Someone might think like, I'm a failure,
Exactly.
or I can't do this.
So that's something that takes a bit more time because that's been there for years and years, right? So that work takes a bit more time and it's repeatedly done. So it is looking at systematically challenging their negative thoughts and beliefs. So if it is, I am a failure, it is looking at that and not just looking at the evidence for that belief, which is what most of us do. We look for things that confirm what we believe. We don't look at alternative evidence against it. So it's starting to change the way we think and giving ourselves really the benefit of the doubt. And we're so good at doing it for others, but we're not really good at doing that for ourselves. And it's not just teaching the skill because, I could do that right now with you in a few minutes, but it is, okay, and now apply that skill repeatedly in a way. And CBT often involves a lot of homework, is what I'll call it. So doing work, written pages or typing things out. So it's not just, okay, yeah, no, I'm doing it in my head, because we're often not good at that. We need to write it down and actually have it start staying in our mind and start seeing shifts in that, the way we think.
Do you think cognitive behavioral therapy is a good, alternative to taking medication?
I think for many people, they can have CBT alone. There are many that medication alone is okay. And there are many that also need both, right? So I definitely am someone who thinks that you should be open to what is needed for you at that time. So I know a lot of people are reluctant to either start medication or start therapy. I always tell my clients that, do your due diligence and get all the information you can from reliable sources. Talk to your doctor, talk to your mental health provider, and get the information and make an informed decision. So don't just, Google it or, speak to someone who's never had therapy or medication, because it's important to weigh the pros and the cons and do what's best for you.
Let's say somebody suspects that he or she has anxiety. At what point would you tell them, yes, it's important to go out and seek treatment? And what sort of treatment would you tell that person to look for? What does a person do? I mean, you're feeling anxious, what do you do?
So I always say, listen, anxiety is completely normal. Anxiety has a purpose, right? So if we didn't have anxiety, we would not be as accomplished. We would do riskier and more behaviors that probably wouldn't keep us very safe if we didn't have anxiety. Because I do see a lot of people who are like, I don't want any anxiety. I'm like, well, anxiety has a point. But you do need to be able to differentiate what normal anxiety is and what extreme anxiety is. So I think to me that line really is around, is it impacting the way you live your life? Right? So is it getting in the way of you working, going out with family and friends, doing what you want to do? If it is, I think it's time to get help. Also, if it's leading to other issues. So a lot of times anxiety can lead people to feel depressed or have substance use problems. I would again say you should get help. If at any point you have thoughts of ending your life, self-harm thoughts, you should immediately get help because that is a concern.
How can I, let's say I know somebody who has anxiety, how would I be able to help that person?
So I think, number one, anxiety looks different with different people. So I think I think it's great that you'd like to help them. I think I would start by asking them, hey, what can I do for you? Can I assist you in some way? Because often people with anxiety, their thoughts are they're dismissed. So it is actually just really important just to listen to them and be there for them. I think this is one of the reasons why I think that Nasiha's text and phone line is a great option, because it does provide people that option to hear someone listening to them without judging them. But I also think it's important that we try to educate ourselves more and more on anxiety. And I think this segment is a great place to start.
And I guess not saying the wrong thing. Yes. Sometimes we end up saying things that actually harm an individual.
Exactly,
hearing
like
them,
saying
right?
it's okay, it's not a big deal. Actually isn't helpful. You'll get over it, not helpful. So I do actually think if you're really not sure, I would err on the side of just listening, right? And even suggesting, you know what, maybe you should, reach out to someone to get more help. Right?
What if you're a parent and you see your child exhibiting some behaviors that look like, he or she might be anxious?
So I think that is something that is quite common, right? So I would start off by saying that you need to talk to your child. And more than just talk, you need to listen to what your child is saying. And make sure that they know that they're loved, that you're patient with them, and again, that you get them help if they need help. I think it's also important that we teach our children some skills that can help them manage anxiety. So skills could be learning to take breaks, exercise, learning mindfulness skills. One really big thing I think is great for parents to do is actually model healthy behaviors in response to anxiety. So not just, your kids never know that you have anxiety, you should actually discuss it. So for me, I have anxiety around calling people I don't know on the phone. My children know this, so I will talk them through what are some of my thoughts around this, but I don't leave it there. I tell them how I push myself to do this despite that, how I challenge my thoughts, and how I do go through and call these individuals I don't know, and that, it wasn't that bad. Mm-hmm. So it isn't just, mom and dad never have anxiety. No, it is very normal, but there's ways to get through it and still function.
Huma, thank you so much. There's so much more we could cover, but we have to end it there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum everybody. A quick message from the team at Voice of Islam. Every time our show airs, we reach a potential audience in the hundreds of thousands. We bring the truth about Islam to non-Muslims and help Muslims learn more about their own faith. Every time something positive comes from Voice of Islam being on air, those people who have contributed and made the broadcast possible share in the potential rewards, inshallah. We really appreciate people donating what they can. Every little bit helps us meet the cost of broadcasting each week. We sincerely thank everyone who has helped us and continues to do so, and we look forward to more help in the future, inshallah. If you are keen to contribute, please visit our website for details of how to do so.
He was never angry for personal reasons or personal insults. He was only angry when a crime or a sin was committed. Yet he never allowed anger to make him lose his temper. He was very calm most of the time. Once, he sent his young assistant Anas on an errand, but on his way, young Anas saw some children playing, so he joined them and forgot about his mission. Then the Prophet saw him, but he did not punish him or embarrass him by reprimanding him in front of them. He just called him with an endearing nickname and said, "Onais, go do what I told you to do." Anas said, "I served the Prophet for more than 10 years, and throughout that time, he never blamed me or told me, 'Why did you do this?' or 'Why did you do that?'" That was Prophet Muhammad.
There are two ayat of Surah An-Nisa that I'd like to share with you today. And in one of them, Allah Azza wa Jal has given us a sense of priority of the kinds of sins that we should stay away from. Often, there's a lack of understanding of the kinds of sense of proportion in the life of a Muslim. There are some priorities that are more important than others. Your prayer is more important than some other things. There are other aspects of our Islam that make your Islam more beautiful. They're preferred acts, but they don't come nearly to the status of the prayer. Similarly, when it comes to sins or shortcomings, there are things that we should do. Of course, you should try to enter your home with your right foot, and when you go to the restroom, enter with your left foot and say certain adhkar, and these are things you should try to do. And ignoring them is somewhat problematic, but then there are things that are major sins. And often what happens when people have a confused or a distorted sense of proportion is that they take care of the small things. They're very careful about the smaller details. I'm following this particular sunnah. I'm making sure that I did this dhikr. I made sure that, for example, it's Friday today, so I recited my Surah Al-Kahf, etc., etc. So they take care of these small things, but at the same time, they ignore the gigantic major sins that are right there in their face, and they're doing them without even thinking about them. That may have to do with maybe earning income in an impermissible way. That may have to do with a major sin like zina. That may have to do, with a major sin like riba and things like that. Some big, big evil sins are right there in your face, and you're blind to them as though you're not even doing them. But this other smaller stuff you're doing, making yourself feel better that you're practicing the religion. Which is why the Qur'an actually gives us a clear sense of proportion. What Allah says in this ayah is, "In tajtanibu kaba'ira ma tunhawna anhu." if you were to avoid and make great effort to avoid the grievous portions of the kinds of things that you have been forbidden from. So there's stuff you're forbidden to do, but there's some pretty serious stuff that you all know that you're not supposed to do. If you can manage staying away from that stuff, then as for the lesser shortcomings, نُكَفِّرْ عَنْكُمْ سَيِّئَاتِكُمْ, will bury away the remaining sins of yours. Meaning, take care of the serious matters first. Take care especially what the Qur'an will highlight, money matters, how we make money and how we spend money. That's a pretty serious issue. Taking care of the rights of the people around us, from everyone within the family to extended in the community, people like the orphan or the poor, etc. Taking care of them and not, فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمِ. Those are big kinds of sins. Then in the way that we conduct our business, transactions, when you owe somebody money, when you got paid to fulfill a contract, when you were paid to provide a service, the honesty that you do at your job, those are pretty big, heavy items. Similarly, the engagement in one of the greatest crimes mentioned in the Qur'an, financially, riba, is a pretty big thing. Similarly, when it comes to our chastity, things like zina, is a major, major thing. So major that Allah says, don't even go close to it. La taqrabu zina. Take care of those things, and yes, you will fall short in some other things. Maybe your salah didn't have perfect khushu'. Maybe your wudu wasn't amazing. You missed a drop or two here and there. Maybe that happened. Maybe when you were reciting Qur'an or when you were praying, your mind was elsewhere. Maybe when you went to do Hajj or Umrah, you overlooked certain rituals, or you didn't do the best. Maybe you lost your patience every once in a while. Maybe some things like that happened. Those things will be compensated for because you're taking care of the major obligations and staying away from major, major sins. That's a sense of proportion that the Qur'an promotes. But what's remarkable to me about this ayah isn't just that Allah Azza wa Jal says that He will overlook those sins. We get often embarrassed about those sins and those shortcomings. Allah adds, وَنُدْخِلْكُمْ مُدْخَلًا كَرِيمًا. I will enter you into a graceful entry. In other words, those small errors and shortcomings are not going to be highlighted. You are going to be dignified and honored, and those things are, those embarrassing mishaps are going to be almost erased from your record or sponged from your record. So you're not humiliated when you come before Allah. You'll be given a dignified entry. But what's remarkable to me about these ayat in addition is that the ayat right before this one spoke about some major sins, like cheating in business and murder. And the ayat about after this one, even more remarkably, the one that I really wanted to share with you today, is actually about one of the major root causes of some very serious sins in life. Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا مَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بِهِ بَعْضَكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. Don't wish for the kinds of favor and the kinds of preference Allah has given some people over other people. So what happens to you and I is we see somebody that has more money than we do. They have better appearance than we do. They have a nicer car than we do. They have a better maybe married life than we do. Maybe they have, better, sometimes I've even heard, even among siblings, my sister has better complexion than I do. She's more beautiful than I am. Jealousy can take many forms. You could just envy somebody for what they have and become obsessed with why you don't have it. And it consumes you. And it could be the smallest thing, it could be the biggest thing. It could be things like money and material things, it could be immaterial things, it could be even the love of a father or the love of a mother. Why does Dad love this one so much? I never get that kind of attention. She never blames him, she always blames me. She gets mad at me, but she's always nice to her. There could be this kind of thing happens among siblings, and parents sometimes don't help because they keep reminding one of them, he's smarter, why can't you be more like him? And create that jealousy even more inside a family. Allah Azza wa Jal started here by saying, don't wish for what other people have been given by Allah Himself. There are preferences. In fact, there are people better looking than you and me. There are people smarter than us. There are people that are more knowledgeable. There are people that make more money. There are people in your family that get more appreciation than you do. It's a fact. That's just a fact. And sometimes it's clearly unfair. But in some of those things, it's simply Allah has opened a door of rizq for them that He didn't open for you. And He opened other doors for you. But what happens for you is, you want the same things that somebody else has. Allah did not make you the same as anyone else. And Allah did not open the doors of provision, of rizq, for you that He opened for other people. Each of us has a unique set of opportunities. And we're going to have to work hard to earn Allah's favor from within whatever we've been given, not comparing ourselves to anybody else. Before I get to the rest of this ayah and the positive reinforcement inside of this ayah, I want to share with you why this is a root cause for many major sins. As a matter of fact, the first grievous rebellion against Allah that we know of in recorded history is the rebellion of Iblis, which is rooted in jealousy. That started, why does he get the attention? Wait, he's just made of clay. That's where that started. The first crime that ever took place on the earth, when humanity came on this earth, is the killing of Habil by his brother Qabil. That's also a matter of jealousy. This jealousy can be so heinous and so ugly that even when you are the son of a prophet named Yaqub alayhi salam, and your brother himself is a remarkable child, who even if you don't know is not a prophet yet, has prophetic qualities, it can lead you to the point where you're even willing to kill your brother. What I'm trying to get at is jealousy and envy are not to be underestimated. They may seem like something going on inside of you or inside of me. It's just a feeling that I have. It's just an itch that I have. Literally, by the way, al-hasad is actually al-qishr, literally a peel and a scratch. They describe it as an insatiable itch inside of the heart, like when some locust or bug bites your skin and you want to just keep scraping it. It's this, and the more you scrape it, the worse it gets. You're just supposed to ignore it and let it pass. The feeling may come, but you have to let it pass. That's actually what hasad is. You know, Al-Hasan rahimahullah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu said that I've never seen anybody who's a wrongdoer that looks more like the victim than someone who's jealous. You know, someone who's a wrongdoer has a victim. But in this case, the wrongdoer is the victim. That's what he says. He's the wrongdoer. He's doing jealousy, but he's the victim himself. This is why in one of the remarkable surahs of seeking Allah's protection, we seek protection of someone who acts jealously. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. We ask refuge from the evil of the one who's envious, especially at the time that he's demonstrating his or her envy, at that very moment. It's a very, very serious thing. It can lead to some very serious problems in my life and in yours. And I want to just count for myself and maybe refresh in my mind what kinds of blessings I may deprive myself of when I become a victim of jealousy, when I myself can't stop thinking about what somebody else has or what I wish somebody else had. And just to be clear, it's actually tamanni zawal al-ni'ma lidunihi. You wish that somebody else no longer had it. You don't just wish, okay, this one is so strong, I wish I was that strong. No. I wish they get sick and I get strong. You want them to not have it anymore. Why did they have it? Why did they? I hope he gets fired. Not only, okay, he got a promotion, I hope I get a promotion one day. No. I hope he gets fired and I get a promotion. That's hasad. You want to see them fail. Something in you just desires to see them come down, which it adds to your rizq in nothing. It doesn't add anything for you. But somehow inside of you, there's this feeling that if you can see them fail, or if you can see them suffer, it will make you feel better in some way. That's what hasad is. Now, how does it ruin one's blessings? We know about Iblis, that Allah Azza wa Jal ranked him among angels. There's no higher rank than that possible among the ibad of Allah. It's just jealousy that brings him from the highest to the lowest and furthest away from Allah. Can you imagine? The greatest of honors has been removed, and the root cause of it, jealousy. The root cause of it, self-entitlement. You have, as a result of jealousy, the committing of a crime, the murder, which the Prophet, what Allah will describe in Surah Al-A'raf, فَكَأَنَّمَا قَتَلَ النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. That murder, that first murder, when talking about it, Allah says, anyone from here on who commits the act of murder, it is as though they have killed all of humanity. They have massacred all of humanity. That grievous sin goes back to jealousy. The point that all of this is supposed to make is that we need to identify in ourselves if we carry this disease. If I feel in myself that there's someone, people do this in every sphere, by the way. It's not just about money and looks and attention in a family. This even happens in the religious sphere. hey, you know, Sheikh, you know that other Sheikh, he has more hits on his videos. Have you compared your followers to his? Why? What is that? And why is he getting the keynote speech at the convention? Why did I get the morning session and he's getting the evening session? You know? Why? And this can happen within masajid. Hey, their masjid, their fundraiser, they raise this much money. We only raise this much money. We're not even in the same city. This kind of competition and not just competition, jealousy. Why are they succeeding? Why are they doing better? It can hit you even inside the world of religion. This is actually the reason, one of the main reasons why Banu Israel, who the Sahaba thought would be the first people to believe. أَفَتَطْمَعُونَ أَن يُؤْمِنُوا لَكُمْ, Qur'an says. Are you very hopeful that they'll accept what you're saying? Because they were people of scripture. They knew the revelation. They recognized the prophet that the way they would recognize their own kids. What is it that kept them from coming? It was actually a jealousy. They couldn't stand that the favor would go to someone else and wouldn't come to them. They wanted to be deprived from Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and come to them. There is no sphere of your life where this can't affect you. It will take over, it'll ruin your work life, your business life, your family life, your personal life, your spiritual life, your communal life. It is every sphere of your life this can affect you. And by the way, one of the most common forms of jealousy that I've only come across more recently as I travel is a lot of people, a lot of sisters actually come to me and ask me, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but that's okay. They'll say, how come the Qur'an has these rules for men, but he has totally different rules for women? How come men don't have to cover? I've been asked that question. How come men don't have to cover? How come we have these divorce laws and they seem to be tipped in the favor of men and not women? And what are women going to get in Jannah? And I'm not saying those are questions that should be ridiculed. But there's one thing that we have to be careful about. We're talking about Allah, who when He gives regulation, I only try to learn His regulation. I didn't come up with the policy. I only try to understand the policy and teach the policy. But the one who gave the policy is the most merciful, is the most loving, is the most fair. And if that question already smells of, I think there's something unfair here, or I feel there's something unfair here, that's a very serious problem. That feeling that somehow I have been shortchanged, even by Allah in what He gave. I need to understand exactly why Allah told me to do what He did. Let me tell you, if somebody asked me why did Allah reveal, for example, for women to cover, for instance, my honest answer will be, I don't know. Honestly, I can think of reasons for myself, some benefits of the regulation, but that's not because Allah revealed those benefits. That's just something I can think of. And I'm not going to dare say, well, here are the reasons Allah gave the regulation of khimar, of covering, of jilbab, and here are the reasons. Because those are not reasons from Allah. Often Allah will give you something and not give you a reason. But He will say that you should reflect on your own. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَفَكَّرُونَ لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ. You reflect on your own why. You think of yourself why, and Allah will not give you a regulation. I know one thing for sure, what He gives is a mercy and what He gives is fair. What does Allah say in these ayat? By the way, these ayat in Surah An-Nisa are after the ayat of inheritance. And of course in inheritance, it's not equal distribution in Islam. Men and women don't get equal share. Whether they're spouses or daughters or mothers, they don't get equal share. Their division is different. So the thought does occur. And so what does Allah say? لِلرِّجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا اكْتَسَبُوا وَلِلنِّسَاءِ نَصِيبٌ مِّمَّا اكْتَسَبْنَا. Men are only going to get part of the share that they earn themselves. And women will get from whatever they earn themselves. It's interesting the use of the word min in that phrase. You're not going to get everything you worked for in this life. You'll get a part of it. Part of it's reserved for later. Or you worked in this life, but some of it wasn't worthy of being compensated. Some of it wasn't, your intentions weren't pure enough. Your deed wasn't pure enough. So you'll only get the part of it that you actually earned, that was actually good and worthy of being compensated. Not all of it. And Allah says, I have standards for men and I have standards for women. Stop wishing for what the other has. Quit wishing for what the other has. And then He says, وَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. One of the most remarkable phrases in the Qur'an, within the same ayah. He says, and ask Allah for His favor. By the way, fadl here isn't just favor, it's preference. You see, in jealousy, a person feels that this one has fadl over me, or I have fadl over them. You know, this one has fadl over me, or a preference over me in terms of wealth, or in terms of appearance, or in terms of opportunity. Or a girl might feel that way in a house when her sister gets marriage proposals and she's not getting any marriage proposals. This one has a fadl over me. Allah says, you want fadl, instead of asking for that preference over another creation of Allah, ask Allah to give you a fadl from Him. Stop comparing what others are getting. Focus on what more you can get from Allah Himself. Almost pretend nobody else exists. Don't worry about anybody else. If you can internalize that, you live a much happier life, by the way. When you're sitting in a class and you're the only one who's not understanding, you're lost, the teacher is like talking about something and you're like, I don't know even what planet I'm on. I lost him like 10 minutes ago. Why am I even sitting here? And the guy next to you or the girl next to you is answering every single question, raising her hand, and you're like, I'm going to run this kid over in the parking lot. I hate this guy. He makes me feel so dumb because he answers every single question. You know what's just happened? All of your focus is on someone who you think is smarter than you, or is a teacher's pet, or is a show-off, or is getting all the attention, and they're making you look bad or embarrassing you, while you forgot why you're there. You're a student. When you're sitting in that classroom, nobody else exists. It's just you and the teacher. You came there to learn. And you should embarrass yourself and say, I lost you. You need to explain yourself again. You owe that to yourself. You can't be embarrassed to ask. You came to further yourself, not to prove your worth to anybody else. That's not why you come to learn. The same way at work, the same way in your family. You don't just silence yourself and wither yourself away because somebody else was given a preference. If something is wrong, you speak up. If you're entitled to something, you speak up. You say it. And you don't just keep burning on the inside and letting that fester and create a hate inside of you. One of the things we beg Allah when we come before Him on Judgment Day is وَلَا تَجْعَلْ فِي قُلُوبِنَا غِلًّا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. Do not place ghil, meaning ill feeling, towards other believers in our hearts. We don't want that in this dunya, and Allah will remove it actually in Jannah. He removes it in Jannah. So it can happen in this life. It can happen that you develop an ill feeling. Oh, this person doesn't deserve the position they're in. They don't deserve to be doing this or the other. You don't feel that way, fine. There are people that'll say, well, this one gets paid a lot more than I do. Why do they get paid more than I do? Or why, and what is it, your business, what they get paid? What are you doing? What have you earned? And if you feel that you should be earning more, then you should make a case for it. And say, here, I deserve more. And here's why. Not because of someone else, but because of your own merits. وَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Ask Allah from His own favor. إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمًا. Allah has always known everything. Stop, when we stop becoming victims by comparison, when we stop thinking of ourselves as a man, as a woman, as anybody, we stop thinking of ourselves as we've been left behind because of other people. There's nobody between you and Allah. And you want to get ahead, ask Allah to get ahead. Ask Allah, وَاسْأَلُوا اللَّهَ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. Otherwise, you'll just spend your life complaining about how other people have done you wrong, and how other people have denied you opportunity, how now everybody got and you didn't get, and you're just going to be miserable, and people around you are going to be miserable because of you. This is the protection Allah has given us in this remarkable ayah. The last thing I want to share with you about this ayah, especially when you recite وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ, is paying special attention to the word idha. Some argue that the word hasid, someone who's jealous, is described here as a quality. Not even just literally as an ism sifa, or ism fa'il, but rather as an adjective for a person. Meaning a person who tends to be jealous. A person who tends to have that quality. But the use of the word idha is suggesting something. If you have that quality, then eventually it will come out in some ugly way. You will end up doing something bad sooner or later because you have that quality. You don't want to become a hasid, and you want to stay away from people that are. You want to stay away from the potential evil and harm that they can do. May Allah Azza wa Jal keep us from becoming people of hasad, and may Allah protect us from those who do hasad against us. May Allah Azza wa Jal not allow our deeds to be destroyed, like the Prophet ﷺ promised that for the one who engages in envy and jealousy, what happens to them? Their good deeds are burnt away like fire burns away all dry wood. You know? Why did he say that? Because when you're jealous, it's impossible for you to be grateful. Impossible. Because when you're jealous, you're only thinking about what you don't have. And your deeds, your relationship with Allah is based on one thing: constantly acknowledging what you do have. That's how you become grateful to Allah. If you're only thinking about what you don't have, it's impossible for you to be grateful. There's no way you can be abdan shakuran, a grateful slave to Allah, if jealousy lies inside of your heart. That becomes impossible. Therefore, may Allah Azza wa Jal make us people that can remove jealousy from our hearts and truly make us people of gratitude. And may Allah make us of those who genuinely ask Allah for His preference and make our lives and our situations better by His grace.
The apple of Macintosh dazzled the world. It was invented by Steve Jobs. But who invented the apple we eat? The stethoscope. It was invented by the French physician René Laennec in 1818. But who created the ear in which we hear everything? The calculator was invented by the Frenchman Blaise Pascal in 1639. Who created the human brain, which equals 1 million of advanced calculators working at the same time? The electric light bulb, which we turn to lighten a room. It was invented by Thomas Edison in 1879. So, who created the self-illuminating sun, which radiates the whole world? The plane. It was invented by Wilbur Wright in 1903. But who invented the systems in birds that enable them to fly long distances? He is Allah, the creator of everything. Look for Him. You will find Him.